Homeschool compliance. What's that? Most states, all but 11, have specific rules to follow. These rules can be intimidating for homeschool families, but don't fear. Be confident in your decision to homeschool and keep these rules in mind as you plan for your family's homeschool year. At the end of the day, as Christian homeschool families, we want to be people of integrity, so let's do this. In today's episode, I will walk you through some state requirements and show you how to access your state's requirements if I don't mention your state. If you are in Idaho, Alaska, Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, and Connecticut, you don't have to notify your state, and there aren't any specific rules to follow. If you are not in one of these states, find your specific requirements. Hey, homeschool mom, I'm Erika Sagert on the Intentional Homeschooler podcast with more actionable steps and encouragement for your homeschooling journey so you can confidently and intentionally homeschool your children without sacrificing your sanity. Grab a pen and paper, your favorite cup of brew, and let's get started. I hear homeschool families asking questions about the homeschooling requirements all of the time. I hear people asking, why does it matter? And will anyone check to see if I'm in compliance? Thankfully, in Oregon and Washington, we don't have anyone policing our homeschooling, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't comply. I say, let's go above and beyond their requirements. Let's strive for excellence in everything we do. We homeschool to meet the needs of our children, so let's push for even more as we homeschool our children. So I'm going to go through the requirements for Washington State first, since I am located in Washington State. So in order to homeschool legally in the state of Washington, you have two options. The first option is to homeschool under the homeschool statute, which I will go through all of those statutes in a minute. Or the second way you can legally homeschool in the state of Washington is to homeschool with a private school. So in other words, private schools, some of them in the area will offer an umbrella program, or a homeschool extension program. So that's another way that you can legally homeschool in the state of Washington. So let's go through the qualifications needed for option one. So to homeschool independently in the state of Washington, there are about 5 rules that you need to comply with. And let me start by saying all of these rules that you need to comply with are assuming that the parent is the one doing the homeschooling. So it's not like you can have your sister or brother or friend homeschool your children. If you are homeschooling in the state of Washington following these rules that I'm going to list right now, that is assuming that you, the parent, are the one doing the homeschooling. So number 1, the parent needs to meet the teacher qualifications. So there are a few ways that you can meet the teacher qualifications. First of all, you could be supervised by a certified teacher. Second, you have some college credits. So about 45 college quarter credits, or which is about a year's worth of college classes. That's another way you can qualify. The third way is by taking a course in home education. And let me tell you that these courses can be very helpful, even if you have a full college degree. A course like Able to Teach or Homeschooling Your Child, a parent qualifying course, those can be super helpful no matter what your experience is. And then the last way to become qualified as a teacher is to get deemed sufficiently qualified by the superintendent of the local school district. I haven't really heard of many people going that route, but it is down as an option. So yes, so number 1, you have to meet those teacher qualifications. One of those needs to be true for you. The second thing you need to do in the state of Washington is to file a declaration of intent to homeschool. So every year, you need to file a signed declaration of your intent to homeschool, and you need to do this by September 15th. So, and this is for children ages 8 to 18. There are forms that you can fill out. Some districts require you to go directly to the district office. Some will allow you to fill the paperwork out online. But just find that form, fill it out, and send it in. I know some parents can feel a little bit nervous when they go down to the district office to turn this in, but just go in confidently, give them the information that is required, and move on. It's really quite simple, so it's nothing to be afraid of. Number 3, you are to teach for the required number of days, and that is 180 days per year or an average of 1,000 hours per year. The 4th thing is to teach the required subjects. So your homeschool curriculum must include occupational education, science, math, language, social studies, history, health, reading, writing, spelling, and the development of an appreciation of art and music. So those are all the different subject areas. Of course, you can integrate and you can teach across, and combine the different subjects into one. It's not like you have to have separate curriculum for each one of those topics, but you do need to cover all of those topics throughout the year. The 5th requirement in Washington is to complete annual testing. So the results of the test or the assessment do not need to be submitted to the public schools, but you retain that as part of your child's permanent school record. So file that away, have a file, a homeschool file that you keep either digital or in a file cabinet, and just save that test every year. Again, that is for students ages 8 to 18. There is a list of specific assessments that will qualify for this requirement. Some of them will be the Cat 5. There's an Iowa test on there. There's a Stanford Achievement test. Anyway, there's quite a long list, so you can choose. I recommend using the same test each year because then you can compare those tests to see how your student is doing. I encourage testing in students because it prepares them for whatever comes up in their future. We just don't know what they're going to do. They could need to study for a graduate entrance exam, the GMAT, GRE, the MCAT, the LSAT. We just don't know. They could have to take the military test. So I think it's good to have them practice taking tests and then look at the results. Don't buy into the results too much, but it does give you some information. You might see some of their weak spots. So take the results with a grain of salt, but definitely it is some good information for you. The other way that you can assess your child is by what I call a non-test assessment. So you can have your child sit down with a certified person, somebody like myself or somebody at our learning center, just to sit down and look at their basic skills. So if they have an extreme amount of test anxiety and you just don't think that a standardized test is going to work for your child, this is an option for you. So those 2 testing options are choose an assessment from the list or have your child evaluated by a certificated person. So again, the homeschool statutes in the state of Washington meet teacher qualifications, file a declaration of intent to homeschool, teach for the required number of days, teach the required subjects, and complete annual testing for students 8 to 18. And this is all assuming that the parent is the primary teacher. Now, the second way you can homeschool in Washington is if you are a part of a homeschool extension program in a private school, or the public school even has, or I should say some of the districts in the area have an extension program there as well. So that is your second way that you can legally homeschool in the state of Washington. In Oregon, which is just across the river from us, since I'm in Southwest Washington here, there are 3 different options or things that you need to do in order to legally homeschool in the state of Oregon. The first thing is to notify the Education Service District, ESD. You send a one-time notice of intent to homeschool to your local ESD in writing within 10 days of starting your homeschool program. Or within 10 days of withdrawing your child from public school. So say you withdraw your child from public school partway through the year, you need to file that declaration of intent within 10 days. The ESD must acknowledge receipt of your notification in writing within 90 days of the notice. So that's something to keep in mind, that you do get a receipt of your declaration of intent from Oregon. The second thing in Oregon, you need to test your children in grades 3, 5, 8, and 10. And the compulsory attendance age in Oregon is 6 years old, so 6 to 18. The test must be approved by the State Board of Education, and it needs to be administered by a qualified neutral person. So I will put some links in my show notes today about which tests for Washington and Oregon so that you have that readily available. The third thing in Oregon that you must do is address any disabilities. So if your child has a learning disability of any kind, you must have that child evaluated for educational progress according to the method recommended in your child's IEP. So an IEP is an individual education plan, and they are usually for students with learning disabilities of some kind. So they have a plan in that. So if your child has that IEP, there will be some recommendations on how to evaluate your child. So there you have it. In Washington, you meet the teacher qualifications, file a declaration of intent to homeschool, teach for the required number of days, teach the required subjects, and complete annual testing. Whereas in Oregon, you notify the Education Service District, test your children in grades 3, 5, 8, and 10, and then address any disabilities. So there you have it. Those are 2 states of the ones that need to follow certain expectations and requirements. So in large part, these regulations make sense and they aren't too intrusive. We can be thankful for that. So find your state's requirements. Again, I will put some links in the show notes for how to find those and follow them. Let's be beyond reproach. Let's go above and beyond the state's requirements so that we are preparing our children for the future that God has in store for them. If any of this resonates with you, you have further questions, or you want to find out about the work I do at Hope Learning Center, book a virtual coffee chat with me. The link to my calendar is in the show notes. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, as well as right here, where a brand new episode will drop every other Thursday. Until next time, you've got this, Mom.